Good evening, everyone. This is the Scanner Guys. I'm Jonathan Higgins,
I'm Rich Carlson.
and tonight we're talking about building a shack that you can actually afford. A lot of times, we have a lot of things out there that are pre-made. A lot of the stuff that we're going to show you tonight is a few different components and some of the stuff that you can pick up at your home center. So we're going to talk about building your own um, custom shack to be able to fit your needs. I've actually showed some of this stuff in previous shows. So tonight, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on that as well. So what you see here, we're going to go into a little bit more detail what's here in the studio and also what's inside of my truck. So let's dive into that right now. So tonight we're going to be looking at building your own shack. Let's take a look at the slide deck first. So we want to remind you to follow, like, and subscribe to our social media: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at the Scanner Guys. While you're at the website, you can check out our store, contact us, and sign up for our newsletter as well. Really appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. It helps us to grow and build the channel. If you're watching this after the live broadcast, make sure you give us a like as well. We really appreciate that as well. So tonight we're going to be building a shack, a custom shack. So tonight we're going to start with the mobile shack. We're going to take a look at a simple mobile low-cost shack. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. I have a Toyota Tundra, so it has the bench in the front, which can actually accommodate 3 people across in the front. And of course, when you don't have somebody in that middle seat, you have some floor room. So you have the ability to be able to put a scanner or two in a vehicle like that. So as many of you know, looking at vehicles, you got to get creative with being able to install it. Now let's talk about this. So believe it or not, you see the image over on the far left. It shows all the wood pieces. Now, most of those wood pieces are all the same size. Basically, I bought one piece of wood, measured it all out, and then painted it when it was not assembled, and made it easy to be able to get those edges and everything. And there's a drill hole you can see in 2 of those. We're going to explain what that's about in a minute. And then also we got some smaller pieces of wood, which I had laying around the house from other projects. So I made use of that as well. So I'm not any professional person when it comes to building things like this. Basically, I use a circular saw, a power drill, a screwdriver, and of course, a paintbrush. So the building materials that I used was basically a 1 inch by 10 inch, 8-foot squared edged board, which was an unfinished white wood board. I had bought some paint. You can get a lot of this paint as samples. This is something that I picked up. You can a lot of times get this for relatively cheap too, if it's a mist tint. Like a lot of Lowe's or Home Depot, if you go there to the paint section, what somebody will do is they'll have them tint it, and they say, "Oh, I don't like it." So what they end up doing is, now this is no good. So they'll basically retint this color. So let's say if Rich was at the home center and he wanted this gray, but he wanted to get it for cheap, they're going to retint it so Rich doesn't come in later on and purchase it for $2.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not going to be quite the same color as the other one, but it's going to be dirt cheap.
Yeah. So typically when you're doing a project like this, before you buy a brand new thing of paint, take a look. You may find these retints for a couple of bucks. And something like this would be perfect for this project. And of course, while I was at the home center, I bought some screws, and maybe if I didn't have any in the smaller pieces of wood, I bought a couple of pieces of wood. Now, how did I start doing this project? Basically, did some measurements in the truck and figured out, okay, I'll do a box, And then inside the box, I'll make it so it accommodates a scanner, and it also will accommodate a speaker, as we'll see momentarily.
And when you're buying that lumber, make sure you buy a nice, an unwarped piece. When you
Yes.
go to Lowe's or Home Depot or those places, that lumber is not always nice and straight. So
Yeah.
find
I
one
mean,
that's
that's
nice.
key thing, Rich, because you're going through the trouble of making this smaller box. You don't want to have issues down the pike when you're cutting it and things are not lining up perfectly.
Yep.
So take a few, like you said, Rich, take a few minutes, look at the board, make sure there's no weird knots or it's being warped or any
Yeah.
cracking too. Because that, like they're receiving this off of a truck, they're not inspecting it, they're just putting it up on the shelf.
Yeah, and they get various qualities of warpage and such, and you can usually dig around and find a really nice one. But if not, you might want to spend a couple extra dollars and step up a notch and get a piece of of wood that might be a higher grade, but it's going to be flat, and that's going to be very important.
Yeah, I mean, like you see here, it's basically one piece of wood, 8 feet long. And then I basically cut it into sections, as you see here. So basically the box, the four sides, and then the divider I used for the actual scanner is
Mhm.
the same size. So let's take a look at another photograph here. So we can see here that basically you can see that I have the walls, and then basically used a piece to make a floor in the beginning part, and then used some smaller pieces of wood to kind of make a divider, and then used a couple of small pieces of wood to support that divider in between. So those holes, because this is in a relatively tight fit, we're going to use a scanner mount where the scanner slides into it. It's kind of like a DIN sleeve.
Mhm.
So because it's in a tight spot, I measured where the mounting screws would be. So basically, I would slide that in and then screw it in and then slide the scanner in into the DIN sleeve and then do those support screws, but I
Yep.
would access them through the side.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that I kept in mind was I want an external speaker. So I figured, okay, I'm going to put one scanner in this box. And then in that front section, I'm going to lay an external speaker, the Uniden one, the amplified one. And I made sure that I did a screw hole so it would be able to connect up to the scanner on the other side of the wall. So
Yeah, and
basically,
make sure that holes are big enough to fit the plug through, so you don't have to cut the plug off.
yeah, and you want to make sure you probably do all your measuring and everything in the painting phase. So
Mhm.
basically, those holes, you don't want to make a messy hole once the thing's constructed. You'll be able to paint it really well, make it look really finished. And really, I didn't do anything fancy with 45-degree cuts. Basically, I took the sides, put drill holes. So there's a couple of screws that are going into that centerpiece in there. Same thing everywhere else. Let's take a look at
Yeah, and if
um,
you pre-drill those holes where you can put the screws in to
splintering.
hold the pieces together, it keeps the wood from splitting.
Yes, the splintering. You don't want that. Okay, so here's all the things that basically I put in outside of the scanner. So highly recommend the Uniden Bearcat 4-inch amplified external speaker. That's the BC23A. That speaker works really well. You're going to think of it in your vehicle. You're going to have some road noise, of course, a little bit. If you've got the windows down during the summer, you're going to have additional noise. Um, so you want to have a speaker that's amplified. So you'll be able to, of course, crank it way up, but you're probably never going to crank it all the way up. But you have the ability to raise the volume louder than, like in some situations if the windows are open. The other thing that's key, which we've talked about time and time again, if you get a unit in radio and it supports um, GPS scanning,
Mhm.
GPS is your friend
Oh,
because it's going to allow you to be able to turn things on and off as you travel. I mean, you think of it back in the day, Rich, when it was a bank-driven scanner. You had to
Hmm.
remember that banks 1 and 2 was a certain part of your trip,
Yep.
bank 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. So you were having to switch banks. This basically alleviates you touching this. You pretty much
Yeah.
you can keep your hands at 10 and 2, and the
Yep.
GPS is just going to turn things on and off as you travel.
I drove all the way from Arizona to Chicago and never touched the scanner.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
really works great.
thanks to the GPS.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is you can do this on a clean slate scanner, let's say a 996P2, which is a current model,
Hmm.
or if you've got a 536 or a home or an SDS
Yeah. Or Home Patrol.
or Home Patrol or SDS 200
Sure.
or 100. Basically, what we recommend, we've talked about this during our GPS shows,
Yeah.
create a favorites list.
Yep.
I mean, you probably thought of it, Rich. A few states you just basically drove through.
Yeah. If you're just doing a fly through on some states, it probably isn't worth the time to do a favorites list. But if you're going to be hanging out in a particular state, take a couple minutes and build a favorites list for that state, especially the state that you live
Yeah, the other thing too, oh shoot, I just remembered something I was supposed to add to the slide deck.
in.
Um, I'll see if I can do this.
Building a show on the fly.
Yeah, so I'll see if I can go in there and show it a different way. I may do a share screen. So basically, GPS is definitely key as you
Yeah.
travel. Being able to turn things on and off. Typically, when I do those drive to through states, I'm going to be able to program the state police,
Hmm.
and I'll create a favorites list because it's no differentiating local, county, and state. So what I'll do is I'll create a favorites list just for the state police, and that's super easy, especially if
Yeah.
they're on a trunk system. You
Yeah.
can basically, like the mark system, just select all the talk groups that are involving the state police, and then let the GPS do its thing.
Yep, absolutely. And you're going to have to make sure you put the sites in there properly too. But that's easy, easy peasy when you're using Sentinel or the Butel products.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Yeah.
super easy.
And just being able to turn that stuff on and off without you having to press buttons all the time and diverting your attention from where you're supposed to be to down to the scanner, it really is a remarkable thing. So much better than we had it in the past.
Yeah. The other things I would keep in mind, most of you know that the connection, the barreled connection for the power adapter can be a little bit flimsy.
Yeah.
It'll slide out relatively easy. There's another wired harness, which is called the Unit and Bearcat power cord with light control. Of course, you can wire it into the fuse box with light control, or you can just use this as a power harness with the cigarette lighter adapter plug in there, as you can see right next to it.
Yep.
So that is a nice, solid, snug
Oh
connection
yeah.
on your
It
unit.
ain't coming out.
It's not coming out.
Yeah.
Let's say you start moving things around with that barrel connection,
Hmm.
you could end up unplugging the scanner by accident. That
Yeah.
plastic connection that plugs in its 3 prongs was not going to come out. The
And
other,
the question that always comes up on that is the orange wire. So the orange wire on that is only for lighting control. So if you connect it up properly, when you dim the interior lights, the lights on the display of the scanner will go down. It is not a remote turn on switch lead or anything like that. So if you just don't connect that orange wire, then just use the red black wire for power and disregard the orange wire. Just cut off the end or tape it off so that you don't short anything out.
so you've got that. You've got the cigarette lighter adapter, which will convert that so you won't have to plug it directly into a fuse box. And of course, most of you are familiar with power strips at your home. You can also purchase one of these, which is a cigarette lighter power strip. And some of these products can be found at Scanner Master. So definitely check that out. Use the affiliate link down below on this broadcast to purchase any one of these items. So we've got a couple of options here. We've got the common mobile mount, which is a part that you can purchase at Solid Signal. They're not a sponsor of the show, but they do carry a lot of parts And this is a really cool thing for something like a 996 or a 15, or something like the 536, which I'm using for my install. And basically, this is a DIN sleeve. It'll slide in there. Um, in this case, you don't have to take off the case. It has enough
Right.
room to slide in there. You use the installing um,
The nuts,
the
the
nut
bolts. Yeah.
to put it in there. Also, if you do have, like some of you do, have an SDS 200, they do have a mounting sleeve for that as well. So you can see in here, it makes it look really slick and really nice.
Yep.
And yet again, you can find this at Solid Signal. So let's take a look at the finished product here. So basically, you can see that the box is gray and everything else is black. It looks really nice, the two colors. So you can see that I used that mounting bracket for the scanner, so it looks like a professional install. Then I mounted in the unit and speaker, and you see that I have a little bit of space to the right of the speaker. That's a great spot to be able to slide a portable radio in there.
Yep.
So you can keep your handheld radio there. You can see the GPS hockey puck, the old style of it. That's the one I have. I actually rewired the Sense photographing this, and I actually have that hockey puck on top of the speaker because it's got a metal grill
Sure.
and it's magnetic, so it stays right on there perfect. Yes, depending on your vehicle, you can actually, with the older style hockey puck, you really don't need it on the outside of the vehicle. It
No.
works perfect there.
I've got mine hanging on. I've got a minivan, and I got those two handles on the inside of the rear sliding door. I just looped it around that handle, and it's just kind of dangling there, and it works great.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, whatever works for your install, everything's going to be unique and different. Looking at this here, you can definitely see, that it looks great. The other thing that I ended up doing is I got a hand towel, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which is the gray color, and I basically cover this up when it's parked in a,
Yep.
parked somewhere in a parking lot, and also protects it from the sun, from baking in the sun as well. So it looks really great in the truck, fits perfectly because I took some time, did some measurements, and then kind of did a rough sketch to be able to figure out how much space it's going to take, and it looks really good.
Yep.
What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share the screen, and I want to show a friend of mine has been working on his setup here. Now let's take a look at this. He's currently testing this out. He's going to do a little bit of work with the wiring, but basically he's got an SDS 200 and the 536 HP. Now he basically drives tractor trailer throughout New England. So this is basically his entertainment.
Yeah.
He's able to listen to the activity. He actually has let me just see here. He actually has a multi-coupler hooked up, so it's connected up to one scanner antenna.
Mm-hmm.
He's got it with some jumpers there. He also has, a power supply here. Actually, he's got a couple of power supplies here. The powered speaker. He's got two of the Wi-Fi dongles, which you can see here. He even has them marked, one for the SDS and one for the 536. That's another photo he sent me. But yeah, I mean, this
Yeah.
is something that you can do. Of course, basically you're going to test everything, make sure everything looks good.
That looks like the Scanner Master desktop mount flipped upside down.
Oh, which one?
Where the two radios are mounted to, it looks like the Scanner Master desktop mount for two scanners,
Yes.
for two base scanners, flipped upside down.
Yeah, I mean, it's just being creative with this.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he's got some space in the truck to be able to do this. Really cool. I mean, he's been sharing photos of the work in progress, and of course, I can't say enough about just being creative and thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Is certainly a big thing. So we've kind of looked at a mobile shack, just simple woodworking, nothing too crazy. I'm going to show you in this section of the show, this cabinet here, which I have on camera. So this is even more simple. So same tools here, yet again, circular saw, power drill, screwdriver, of course, paintbrushes, and then, of course, one piece of, this is really simple. One piece of wood, you're cutting it up to size, basically to accommodate the face plates and the ends. And then basically, yet again, doing maybe a sample. If they don't have a color you like, you can have them tint a sample to the color. And then these face plates can be purchased at Scanner Master, and they come with, you would get a DIN sleeve as well, and you end up taking the case off and you slide it in there, and then get some nice finished black screws. As you can see here, you don't really see the screws at all, and I get some really nice screws. So this is even a simpler project. Let's take a look at it here. So basically, painted everything, so all the edges are all done. Then basically put it together without screwing anything together. Make sure it's good to go. And then once I had the basic box built, then I screwed the sides together, and then, of course, added the face plates and the DIN sleeves. So you can see there the DIN sleeves are installed. And these are what these face plates look like. Now, they're really simple, just a piece of metal with the DIN sleeves. The measurements are right there. So you're going to make sure that the opening accommodates, that DIN sleeve somewhere to be able to screw on the edge. Basically, it's a flat black finish. As Rich, you've said, what is it? Police black?
Yeah, police tactical black.
Yeah. So a lot of the radios now have that black face on it, or the gray. So it looks really nice. So let's take a look at some extras. So a lot of time we've talked about some of these extras, and you're probably going to have a little bit of a chuckle when you see, and this is probably the slide that's going to make you chuckle, is Rich and I talk about these Velcro strips. They are so darn handy.
I've got probably several hundred of these, several packages. They come in packs of 50. I probably have about 5 or 10 packs of it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's great for everyday life, like winding up that cell phone charging cable, or getting inside the box, especially in that mobile. You want to tidy things up. Some of the wires, your power supply is going to be relatively close, and you've got ample amount of wire, so you want to tidy it up. Make it looking nice and neat. And these Velcro things are great, and you can get them at the home center for probably about $6. You can get like 50 of them. So certainly that is definitely another thing. Now, you may want to not go extreme. Let's say you've got 2 radios in there, but you don't want to have to power supply a multi-coupler. Now, believe it or not, this combiner splitter works really good. It's the SP1300. And how this works, if we're looking at the photograph here, so input A would plug into the first scanner, and then, output A would plug into the first scanner, and then you would run a jumper from output B to the other scanner. So basically now your scanners are wired up to the SP1300, and then the input, basically the coax coming from the antenna. It's relatively a simple setup, and it's not very expensive. And this is something, if you don't want to have to be concerned about powering a multi-coupler, and you want to do this quick and easy, and this is going to be much better than trying to do a T connection, because this is meant to be a splitter.
Yeah, it's going to have a little bit of loss, but it's remarkable how little loss you get from this particular splitter. I've used it several times. It works really well.
Yeah. I mean, it works. I can't say enough about it. It works really well. I mean, especially if you're on a budget, with your install, and you do really those multi-couplers, the 4-port, I think it's like $200. So if you're on a budget right now, maybe this will be the option. And then once um, Dale Osborne usually calls it, I think, fun coupons. Once you get more of those fun coupons, then you can invest into a multi-coupler. All right. So we kind of covered the topic of the show. So what we're going to do is going to go into your questions. I'm going to do a couple of slides just reminding you guys, um, what's coming up and everything. So let me just go this way. So, of course, the Scanner Guys are brought to you by viewers like you. I mean, just from watching the show and subscribing to the channel certainly helps us out. The other thing is purchasing the Scanner Guys merch. We've got t-shirts, we've got a travel mug, we've got a hoodie, we've got a lot of good stuff on our Scanner Guys merch store. So definitely check that out. And we also have an affiliate link down below in all of our live videos. So if you're looking to purchase a brand new scanner or you're looking to purchase any accessories, use that affiliate link. We'll get a little bit of the sale of the thing right there. Joe Bearcat, I think you mentioned about the manual for the
Yeah, I just sent you the link. I'm not sure how we can post that.
Yep, she's got it. She posted it right on the channel.
Perfect.
So use that affiliate link, and the Scanner Guys, of course, are brought to you by Scanner Master as well. So let's take a look at a couple more slides. So we talked about shacks this week, kind of basic shacks. Next show on the 28th, we're going to talk about fall scanner prep. We've talked about this occasionally, Rich, where we talk about, many of us are in areas where they receive snow and such. So you want to kind of prep your radio for those, maybe monitoring that snowstorm. Or if you're down in Florida and, hurricane season is still going on or whatever it may be, you may want to program that electric company if you're able to. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all types of fall prep for your scanner. The other thing we're going to talk about too is you want to make sure your antennas are good to go for the winter, especially if you're in a cooler climate. You want to make sure that the scanner antenna is good to go before the snow falls. In your case, Rich, temperature's starting to drop down. This is a good time for you to go up in the attic and make sure everything's good. For you, you don't.
Yeah, everything is backwards here.
Yeah. So you're gonna go up, probably check on those. It's been all summer. It's been hot as blazes up there. So now you're gonna go up there. You're gonna do some of your in the fall, more than likely, do some rearranging of antennas, checking on those cables. We're gonna talk about all that, and we're gonna give you key things to look at during the fall scanner prep show. So definitely tune in for that as well. Train Aficionado Live will be coming up next Wednesday. That's September the 21st. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media there as well. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. We've had lots of great shows over the last several months over there. So definitely check out the channel and hit the subscribe button. We very much appreciate that. Once again, follow, like, and subscribe to the Scanner Guys as well. So let's get into the questions that you have as an audience. So let's look at.
Let's start off with saying, hope Dale feels better.
Oh, geez.
He got nailed. I got nailed a few months ago, and now it's Dale's turn. So, Dale, get better, my friend. Yeah, let's see here. So, trying to get different alert light colors in Sentinel. The radio has specific colors on it. So you can't go in and alter the colors because it's hard coded into the radio.
But there's a wide variety, Rich, of colors.
There are. Now, that's a little bit different. Whistler does allow you to select a whole wider range of colors.
Yeah, because you can change the tint colors.
Yeah, and you got all these different numbers. So you got thousands of combinations. They're very subtle differences, perhaps. But with the Uniden radios, the LEDs are certain colors, and those are hard coded into the radio. There's really no way to change that.
But the great thing about it is there's a good number of colors that you can kind of assign every agency its own color.
Yeah,
I mean, for the most part, you would say, you could do police blue, red for fire. You could do like your highway department, a
yeah.
green color,
Yeah,
being
yellow
outdoor.
railroads or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever color scheme you want, so that you, when you see red pop up, you know that that's the police. So um, so more Jello. Do you know the power output impedance for the SDS 200 external speaker jack? The output of the SDS 200 is about 1.5 watts, if I recall correctly, and it's intended for an 8 ohm speaker. There was some other comments on the chat. The BC23A speaker will put out up to 8 watts, so it will amplify your scanner quite a bit. And it's great for handheld scanners because you can plug it into the headphone jack of a handheld scanner, and you can't plug an unamplified speaker into there. It just won't provide enough oomph.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind, a lot of us have used the Home Patrol 1 or 2 as a
Yeah,
base radio. So you definitely need to put an amplified speaker for that as well.
yeah.
I've had that before where I had one mobile configuration where I had like a 536, and then I incorporated a Home Patrol a 1 or 2, and I had two amplified speakers.
Hmm.
Worked great. The other thing with the amplified speaker, Rich, I'm not too sure if you're aware of it. It's got the activity light. So
Hmm.
when the radio audio, the red light comes on. The other thing that it has too is it has its own volume knob on the side. So
Yeah,
that's another thing too, is you can adjust volume not only on the scanner itself, but if the scanner is not in arm's reach, but the speaker is, you
yeah.
can turn that volume up and down on that speaker as well. And it's a large wheel on the side.
Right. So yeah, so leave the scanner volume relatively high, not all the way blasting because that get a lot of distortion, and then just use the volume control on the speaker to control the volume.
Yeah, lots of good stuff there.
Oh yeah.
What's Dale? Oh, the
Oh, I'm sorry.
sleeve.
Yeah.
Yes. This is
So
this is Bob. This is his
oh,
shack
okay.
that we're showing.
Oh, okay. So the DIN sleeves, we get questions on this quite a bit as well. Some of the scanners come with the DIN sleeves and some of them don't. And I know they've changed it over the years. So if you don't have enough DIN sleeves, try to find somebody who's got a stash of scanners or something. That's what I did. I needed more DIN sleeves, and I reached out and I found Dale actually had a bunch of DIN sleeves he wasn't using and sent them to me. So the DIN sleeves plus, I think that they're sold on the Scanner Master page. I'm not sure if they're available right now or not, but
So how that worked is we ended up making our own because there is the application which is called Rangecast. It's a sister company of Scanner Master, and they use for newsrooms. They use rack mounts
yeah,
for these radios, which looks just like this, but it's in a big rack. So what Scanner Master was running into, and Rangecast, they couldn't get their hands on enough DIN sleeves, so they had somebody manufacture the DIN sleeve just with the tabs that were necessary. If
right.
you look at the actual real DIN sleeve, there's a whole mess of tabs and things
Yeah,
you can
for all
customize.
kinds of different applications. So the
But
ones that Scanner Master made are specifically for scanner and faceplates.
yeah, and it works. I believe
Yeah.
some of these are actually there. They're custom made ones, and it works
Yeah.
great.
Oh yeah, I use them all the time, and my new shack is going to have them as well. And remember that the DIN sleeves come with little keys. They're little metal keys that go into the slots. If you take a look on the front of a 996, a 15, or a 536 scanner, it's going to
Those
have two little
spots.
slots, and you stick those keys in, and that releases the radio from the DIN sleeve so you can pull it out. It pushes right in without any problem, but then it latches in there. It won't come out unless you put those keys in. So, Um, all right, so Dale's got faceplates for a bunch of older scanners from Desk. Those are the ones that I've got. Are mostly from Desk from when I did mine. But there's Desk, Havis, and there's a third company. I just can't remember the name. They all look very similar, and sometimes they're compatible with the other guy's mounts, and sometimes not. Um, but it actually really doesn't make a whole lot of difference because you can, like on your situation, you drop the faceplate and with the radio in it into the wood, and then you can just mark where you're going to drill the holes. If you're using rails, you can just drill new holes, and if you're using sheet metal screws, you just screw right into it, or you can even tap them, which is what I did when I had faceplates that didn't fit my panels that I had them on. So, yeah, Desk, Havis, and there's a third company that I just can't remember. I'm sure somebody will know what it is in the notes in the chat. Joe, your comment wasn't censored by us. Participants in the chat are not. YouTube doesn't allow chat members to post links, so we don't censor that. That's a YouTube thing, and we don't have any control about that. That's why we asked our producer to put the link up in the chat, so she can do that, but participants can't do it. So we're not censoring you, Joe. We did put that PDF. We got that for you.
Yeah, that was put up there. Yeah, the remote head.
Yeah.
The RH96. Now, there's an interesting story to the RH96. So, when Uniden manufactured the RH96, it wasn't a heavy mover. It wasn't until it became discontinued. So, what ended up happening is Uniden was going to discontinue it, and then the owner of Scanner Master, which is Rich Barnett, asked Uniden, how many parts do you have left to be able to make? Oh, yeah, we can make probably at least 2 batches for you. So we actually had at Scanner Master, when I was working there full time, we had RH96s when no one else had it. Yep. And then it became a hot commodity. A lot of people, I mean, you look at the vehicles of today, you have to get super creative with it. Yep. And the RH96 was ideal as a remote head. You could tuck that scanner underneath the seat, or put it somewhere else in the trunk in the vehicle, run up the remote head, run up an external speaker, and there you go. You basically have all your controls there. Wasn't there a gentleman that did the 996P2?
That was me, and I was the beta tester of it. And there was another guy named Rick who was the actual creator of that. And basically, he created a converter circuit. And I sent him an RH96, and between he and I, we got it figured out. And I posted the instructions and I drew the schematic diagram for that. And then it was a programmable ROM chip. And then he wrote the I'm not a programmer, but he was. So he wrote the program to program the ROM chip to allow the 996 and the 325, at least those 2 radios, to work with the RH96. Of course, that requires a custom cable as well, because the 996 and the 325 do not have that Uniden serial port on the front of the radio that the RH96 was meant for. Now, before that, when I was still working with my XTs, I did make I found out the wiring diagram, and I did make cables that allow my RH96s to work on the rear serial port of the radio. And then I ran into a problem. GPS. I wanted to use the GPS at the same time. So what I did then is I put a 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter jack on the back of the 996 scanner, so that I could, and I basically connected that to the front serial port so that I could have the GPS connected and the RH96 connected at the same time. Plus, that's a much more secure connector than that little serial port on the front of the radio.
Yeah, I mean, especially that old school connector. And many of you may not remember, but if you've got a 15X,
Mm-hmm.
that could easily be tapped.
Yep.
I mean, really, I
Yeah.
mean,
It wasn't very secure.
that serial connection is great. It's a solid connection in the back.
Yep.
I mean, if anything, if we were to go back in time with some of these radios, we probably would have suggested two serial connections in the back, one for
Yeah.
GPS, the other one for the remote head.
Yeah. Well, like I say, what I did do though is I used a regular headphone jack, a little 3-wire headphone jack. There's a ground, a transmit, and a receive. That's all you need for the serial data, and it worked great. And I got that jack installed on several of my radios while I was using that for the GPS, and now or for the remote head. And now that I don't use the remote head, I don't need that any longer. But for that time, it worked great.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
unfortunately, the RH96s are no longer available new, and there just isn't a demand. And so I don't think Uniden will ever come out with them. There are some people on Radio Reference that are creating some remote head opportunities for some of the newer radios, like the SDS, that include. I'm not sure. I think it's a Raspberry Pi and and an
display.
LCD display.
Mhm.
It might even be touchscreen. I don't know, but there are. If you go into the Uniden forums on Radio Reference, again, none of this stuff is supported by Scanner Master or especially by Uniden. But if you're able to make it work, more power to you, friend.
Yeah, I mean, you think of it, being able to bring something up to the front that's the size of a smartphone.
Yeah,
Being able to control the radio and then also having the ability of wiring up a nice speaker,
yeah,
up in the front. I mean, that basically is a great remote head. I mean, you think of it, most people have a little holder for their smartphone up in the front.
yeah, yeah. If you got 536, that works great. There was some little confusion in the chat, and the discontinued item was the RH96, not the 996P2. So
No, not the
no,
P2.
the 996P2 is still and will continue to be a current radio, and it is still currently available and will be for as long as we know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the RH96 was discontinued, so not the
Oh, dear.
that. So,
Maybe Uniden and Switchgears are producing the RH96. The heck with the 996.
yeah. Greg is a little concerned about the car build out. Where your particular setup, and I've been in your car, it's a great setup, and I don't think that's going to be an issue in a crash because it's not in the airbag zone.
No, it's nowhere near the airbag
Yeah.
zone whatsoever.
That's what you got to be careful of.
That's the other thing you got to be careful of is you
Yeah.
need to be aware of those airbag zones
Yeah,
because that'll create an issue. But
yeah.
for the
You don't
most
want your
part,
radio flying into your face.
yeah, for the most part, there's no airbag zone. That's basically tucked in between the seats. Basically not the seats, but the front and the seat. And all my airbag stuff is up higher. I mean, that's down where somebody's legs would be essentially.
Yeah,
They were sitting in the middle seat. But yeah. I mean, that's no issue whatsoever.
yeah. Let's see here, and we're ready about next gen 911. So that's a little bit outside the purview of the scanner guys. But next gen 911 basically is the next generation of 911. The very first iteration of 911 is what we call phase 1. And it was basically when you called 911, it tried to route it to the proper call center. And then phase 2 on 911 was not only routing it properly, but also providing your name and address and phone number. And then the wireless 911 came along, and that again went to the same thing. It originally just looked at what cell site you were connected to and which side of the cell site you were connected to, and attempted to route it to the proper call center. And now the next generation of wireless 911 is it takes a GPS location and uses that to properly route it and provide that location to the call taker. Um, all of those technologies are still a work in progress. And now they're already working on the next gen 911 of that, where it can do things like accept text messages and other type of messaging, which is great for like deaf people and such. Um, but it really won't make a whole lot of change to radio traffic, although part of the next gen 911 is newer CAD systems, computer aided dispatch systems, and those systems tend to reduce the amount of radio traffic because they put a lot of that information out on the CAD system. So it might slow down the need for additional radio resources if they can put that out over the radio. So, and let's see here, what else we have? Oh, sorry. It's already been snowing out in the mountains, so a little early for that. So I'm sorry. What was
Oops.
we're both hitting the button at the same time.
So, glass mount antennas. I've tried using that. I mean, it works okay. I'm not a huge fan of it just because of it is what it is. It's not a solid connection, but
Yeah.
it will work okay for a vehicle. Let's say you don't have any metal, to be able to do something permanent like an NMO mount or a mag mount. I mean, if that's your only option, it's better than nothing, pretty much.
Yeah.
I would definitely say.
Um, so for those of you that are rail fans and like listening to the railroads on your scanners, this should be a very interesting weekend. I think it's this Friday morning or tomorrow night at midnight or sometime on Friday. The major freight railroads are supposed to go on strike. And if and when that happens, I assume that the railroads are going to try to continue to provide some service with management employees and non-union employees. It's going to be an interesting time. Listen to the scanners. I would not be real keen on going out to my favorite rail fanning spots during the strike. Number one, there's going to be a whole lot less activity, if any. And number two, you don't want to get. Whenever there's a strike, you're better off just kind of keeping your distance, no matter where the strike is. So
yeah, so that should be definitely interesting. I mean, the other thing that I want to mention outside of that is since I got the shared screen, let me just pull this up.
sure.
So somebody was able to catch this.
Ooh.
This is the Operation Lifesaver paint scheme that CSX has done for this locomotive here. So it just rolled through Glendale, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody posted this on one of the groups that I follow.
Oh, is that the 50th anniversary of Operation Lifesaver?
Yeah. So they were able to catch this photo through Glendale, Ohio. Looks sharp. Hopefully we'll be able to see a lot more of that, and hopefully I'll be able to catch it out and about. That's for sure.
Yeah. Preston, if you're watching, hope you feel better too. So he's my buddy who's family with Dale. So we had a great time a few months back.
All right. Well, I think we've answered all the questions.
Yeah, I think we really have. We're going to check in on that issue with the hoodie. So, because Nikki, we're not ignoring you, but we are. We're going to check with the vendor on that. He's got an issue with the hoodie.
Oh no, he's been told to communicate directly to to them. We have nothing to do with that.
Yeah. So that's with that vendor. So, all righty, and let's see here. On a P25 phase 2 system, you see data that does the system work if the FM comes on. So if you're seeing data pop up on your screen, there could be a couple things going on. It could be what's called OTAP, which is over-the-air reprogramming. It could be sending text messages, which is a capability of P25. Or it could be that the radio is still trying to decipher the control channel, try to figure out what's going on. Oh, and Dale, thank you. Troy was the other manufacturer of those faceplates. So those are the three. And Gamber, Johnson, Evan, thank you. There's 4 main manufacturers of police consoles with those faceplates. So you got Jotto Desk, Havis, Troy, and Gamber Johnson. And they're all pretty much the same thing. Just sometimes the screw holes don't match up. And let's see here. Well, yeah, Scanner Master did have a remote head for the 780, 85, and 96 radios. I had one. It was a bear to install and involved quite a bit of soldering and ribbon cables, and made me very nervous putting it in. And it cost more than a radio, but it worked. So that was a lot of fun trying to put that puppy together. Are we about done, my friend?
Yeah, we're about done. So let's wrap this up for this evening. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to our social media as well. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. TheScannerGuysShow.com. Shop our store and check out our website for contacting us, and you can even sign up for the newsletter. We thank you so much for joining us this evening. Make sure you join us for upcoming shows. Have a safe evening, and we'll talk to you again next week. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
Have a good night.
Later, guys.